the strongest offensive of Ukrainian army began. Russian media announced that Ukraine carried out the most violent attacks since 2014. In Donetsk, Russian army suffered a critical number of casualties. While a significant part of Russian military facilities were destroyed, a large number of military equipment was also destroyed. Successive attacks were carried out with HIMARS systems. Ukrainian rocket units with multiple rocket launcher systems supported the HIMARS attacks. Numerous explosions occurred in the area. It was stated that at least 8 Russian ammunition depots were destroyed. Russian army was badly wounded in Donetsk. Moscow thinks that Russian armies should regroup in the region. After the attacks, Ukrainian forces made great progress. According to the breaking news from Russian media, Ukrainian forces carried out 60 rocket attacks in addition to the HIMARS attacks. Russian military installations were plunged into darkness. Intelligence reports say that Russian soldiers lost communication. Ukrainian forces mobilized. Ground operations began. Ukraine took action to seize important parts and most of Donetsk. With the mobilization of Ukrainian forces, explosions occur one after another on the territory of Russia. The tension is pretty high. Images of the flames rising from the Kursk and Bryansk regions were shared. The Ukrainian army broke through the eastern front. Losing communication, Russian soldiers began to flee from the front. Putin said that if Ukraine advances, Yars missiles will be used. The Kremlin is in a very difficult situation. The Great War has begun. In the early morning, Ukrainian rocket units began operations simultaneously in the Donetsk region. The operations, which started on the orders of Kiev, are considered the largest and most violent operation carried out by Ukraine since 2014. As a result of the attacks, almost all of Russian command and communication centers in the Donetsk region were destroyed. Ukrainian rocket troops targeted Russia's communication line. According to last-minute statements, the supply routes used by Russian army were severely damaged as a result of the attacks. Russian soldiers, whose supply lines were destroyed and communication lines cut, were shocked. It was also claimed that 11 Russian command centers were neutralized. According to the statements of Russian media, Ukrainian army carried out 60 rocket attacks with a large number of rocket launcher systems. Ukrainian army is said to be able to launch another 160 attacks. Therefore, armed forces of Russia ordered the withdrawal of troops. After 60 rocket attacks, Ukrainian army began its main offensive. After the MLRS rocket systems, the great offensive of the HIMARS systems began. In total, 20 HIMARS missiles neutralized critical facilities of Russian army, Russian positions, supply routes, ammunition depots, and command centers. With the start of the operations, according to estimates, more than 320 Russian soldiers lost their lives. Ukrainian army began ground operations shortly after the rocket attacks. The resistance of Russian defense line was broken. Russian soldiers, whose communication was cut off by the advance of Ukrainian forces, began to flee from the front. Ukrainian General Staff did not make a statement about the position of the Ukrainian soldiers. However, it is known that there are 160 missiles and rocket systems on the Donetsk border. In this process, it is thought that Ukrainian army will carry out attacks with missiles. It was stated that 80 attacks were carried out by Ukrainian army today. With 160 missile launchers, Ukrainian army can carry out at least 160 more attacks. Russian troops are in a very difficult situation. Moscow took action to take more measures in the region, but the advance of Ukrainian army spoiled all the Kremlin's plans. Because almost all of Russian command centers in the region were destroyed. Therefore, it will take months for Russian soldiers to re-establish a command center. For this reason, Russian troops spooled the defense line to an area close to Russian border. Russian sources claimed that Russian defense line was withdrawn 11 kilometers. No official statement has been made about this issue as of now. On the other hand, the lack of an explanation from Kiev may indicate that Ukrainian army will continue its attacks. We know that Ukrainian ground troops are on the move. With the mobilization of ground troops, explosions were heard one after another on the territory of Russia. 3 explosions echoed in the Kursk region of Russia. According to the first statements, it was announced that Ukrainian army attacked 1 ammunition depot and 1 Russian command center in the region with missile attacks. Ukrainian forces attacked with 3 missiles. Russian air defense systems in the region neutralized 1 air-launched missile. However, 2 missiles reached the target. Shortly after the attacks in Kursk, explosions were heard in the Bryansk region of Russia. According to the first statements of the military press service, as a result of the attacks, 2 Russian industrial plants in the Bryansk region became unusable. In addition, it was reported that the intensity of the explosion caused damage to the construction equipment in the region, and 6 construction equipment was destroyed. As Ukrainian army continued to conduct successful operations, the Kremlin was in for a shock. The escape of Russian troops from the front greatly worried Moscow. With the temporary cessation of operations, Putin announced the use of massive Yars missiles. Kremlin is quite uncomfortable with the systems sent by Western countries reaching Ukraine. For this reason, Putin made statements about Yars missiles both to threaten the Ukrainian army and to scare Western countries. As you know, Kremlin brings up the use of nuclear weapons after every defeat. Vladimir Putin announced that the range of the Yars missiles covers both USA and the UK. In the news and the international media, it was interpreted that Putin made a nuclear threat to the West by pretending to be preparing for nuclear war. Footage released Wednesday shows a Russian Yars rocket deployed in a silo at the Kozylsk military compound in the Kaluga region, southwest of Moscow. According to Mirror, the range of the intercontinental ballistic missile is 12,500 miles. Yars missiles are thought to be 12 times more powerful than an old-style nuclear bomb. As I mentioned, every time Putin is defeated, he makes statements about nuclear missiles. But European Union, NATO, and USA have nuclear deterrence. Therefore, these threats of Russia mean nothing. In this process, even Putin's preparations for a nuclear attack will cause great harm to Russia. Kiev, on the other hand, announced that Russia could carry out counter missile attacks. But Putin has a bigger problem. Ukrainian army has unveiled its massive air defense plans. Following reports that United States is preparing to supply Patriot missile systems to Ukraine, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said in a speech Wednesday night that his government is preparing deals to improve air defense. In his speech, Zelensky thanked the 96th Anti-Aircraft Missile Brigade of Ukrainian Air Force for downing Iranian-made 13 Shahid manned aerial vehicle in the Kiev region. The skies of the Kiev region are guarded by Air Force's 96th Anti-Aircraft Missile Brigade. A total of 13 Shahids were shot. These are the 13 infrastructure objects recovered. These are the areas recovered from the attacks, he said. Attempts to attack highlight an important problem for Ukraine, because Ukrainian soldiers now have to fight against incoming missile and drone attacks constantly, while at the same time continuing to advance to retake areas previously captured by the Russians. Kiev stated that this problem will be solved in a short time thanks to the new agreements. We made significant progress this week in air defense, Zelensky said. While Ukrainian president has not disclosed any further details, it indicates that the White House's plans to send Patriot systems are most likely correct and that other European countries may follow the same path in delivering more advanced missile systems. Any attack by Russia will no longer find its target. Air defense systems such as the Buk and the S-300 in Ukrainian army can be deployed to the front. The tension is increasing day by day. We have come to the end of another video. In the coming hours, we will continue to convey the developments to you quickly and accurately. We continue to inform you objectively about the events.